Okay everyone, so in this next lesson, let's try to go and work with the other elements in our form. Let me just open our code editor here. Let's go and try to work on our email here. So I would want to also give this an ID, email, and let's try to go and select it here. And let's apply some styling. I also want to apply the following styles here. Now let's try to go and refresh our browser here. And there you go. Now what I want to do with my email here is to place it in the center and then have the password go down. So let's try to apply some additional code for that. First, I would want to go down here and then put a line break here and then go back up here in our email, and I would want to add padding to the left 5 pixels. I think that will be okay, but let's try to have a margin of 34 pixels on the left side, and margin bottom I'm going to be adding here, I think 10 pixels will be okay. Let me just check here. Let's increase the width of our email here, email text box. So let's go and add a width property here. Let's say 80%, and let's see how that will look on our browser. And there we go. So you would see we were able to move the password down here, and then we were able to increase the email address text input element. Now let's also play around with the password input type here and the repeat password input type element. So let me just open up here and let's try to go down here first. Let's create an ID for the input type element for the password here. So let me just place here an ID of PSW also, and then let's try to select that. And also let's try to apply the styling that we have here and save, and then refresh our browser. Let's see how that will look. Okay, now let's try to go down here and then try to also apply that for our password repeat here, and let's go and select that ID. So let's go and PSW repeat, and again let's maximize the use of the same stylings that we have already applied here. Let's go back to our browser. Let's see how that will look, and there we go. Of course, we also want this to have a line break here, so let's go to our code here and then put a line break here, and let's see how that will look on our browser here. Okay, now let's go do a little bit of adjustments in our input type here and the label here. So let's go to our label for our password, and let's apply some styling for this. I'm just going to use inline style, so perhaps I want it to have a padding left of 8 pixels. Now let's try to go and refresh this and see how that will look on our browser. Okay, so it was moved a little bit, aligned here. So let's go back to our code editor here. Now let's go and try to also apply the styling here of padding here to our label for the password repeat. Let me just check in our browser. Refresh. Okay, now let's go back to our code editor here, and we would want to have a margin left for our password repeat here of 19 pixels. Let me just check here, and there you go. Now what I've noticed here is that we have a margin bottom here. I think that will no longer be needed, or actually it's the one that we need to change here, so that will be here. So we need to replace that with 10 pixels. And nothing happened here, right? So let's see if we try to go and remove this, because I saw here that we have double declaration of margins. So the one will be the complete circle, and the other one here is the single declaration for a specific side of our margins here. So let's see how that will look if ever we remove the 10 pixels. Okay, so you would see there that it moved up a little bit. So perhaps let's go and apply this also here and also here. But I won't be deleting this, everyone, so at least we'll just have some sort of reference also here. So you would see that it's really trial and error sometimes based from what you want to do and based from what you want to happen in your styles. So at least you're seeing here how's the workflow, or how is the workflow will be something that you will be experiencing in the future, from where you will need to test out, comment things out, and then test it out again. So let's go back to our browser here. Let's refresh. There you go. You would see here that nothing really much change in our code. So the last thing that I would want to do here is to move the space from our input type here, from our password here, so at least it will be moved just aligned with the repeat password. I would want to use a HTML entity for this. So I'm going to use the nbsp HTML entity, also known as the non-breaking space HTML entity. If we try to go to our documentation here, so we can see here we have HTML entities. We actually tackled this before, and there it is, the non-breaking space that will not break into a new line. Okay, so at least we can try to use this non-breaking space here. So if you remember, we already used this before. Okay, so let's try to go and use that now in our project here, and I want to apply it in that specific part of our document. Now I want to go and go to our password here and use that nbsp HTML entity at least 8 times. Oops. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's save that and let's see our browser and how it will look on our browser here. Refresh, and there we go. We now have our enter password aligned with our repeat password here. So that will be all for this session, and we'll be working on with the checkbox section of our page here that will contain some terms and conditions. Okay, so see you on our next lessons.